Hello and welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining for this exciting Learn More session with the British Library. I'm Laura. I'm super excited to be chairing. I'm just going to allow some time for people to join. We've already got over 100 people on the call, which is super exciting. We'd actually love to hear from you. If you're happy to drop your name and the area in which you're tuning in from, which city or north, south, east, west London. It would be lovely to hear from you. So a little hello in the chat. I'm tuning in from whichever location you're at. And then we'll be making a start shortly. Hello, Ruba from East London. Hello, Maria. Hello, Leah. Hello, Anne. Talia, Emily. Got lots of people based from all over the UK, which is super exciting. And thanks so much for introducing yourself and joining the session today. So introduce myself, I'm Laura, Director of Programmes at Creative Access. And to explain a little bit more about who Creative Access are, many of you will be familiar with us. We are a social enterprise working to open up career access and help people thrive in the creative industries. And essentially, we support individuals via internships and jobs, mentoring programs, application guidance, and long-term career support. And then in terms of today's session, what we'll be covering, specifically the opportunity to learn more about the British Library, which is used by almost 16,000 students, scholars, and members of the public every day. We'll be speaking specifically to the British Library training placement on how to apply and make your application stand out, as well as top tips, advice, and guidance, including the eligibility criteria for the role. So brilliant. Thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. It's brilliant to have you all here on this hot afternoon. And we're very fortunate to have a fantastic panel joining us today. So I'll introduce them by name and then I'll hand them over to do their own introductions. So we've got Jazz Rye, Chief Operating Officer at the British Library, Phoebe Painter, Early Careers Advisor at the British Library, and Lauren Sanderson, who is a participant of year one of the programme. So I'll hand over to Jazz for brief introductions. It would be lovely to hear more about your role and your career pathway to date. Thanks, Jazz.
Great, thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Jazz, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at the British Library. That means I look after all of our core operations, from HR to our estate, to our technology, to our commercial side, to our fundraising and our marketing. And I'm also privileged to be sponsor of some of our really, really big major building projects here in London and up in Boston Spa in Yorkshire. I've been at the library for about 5 years now. What I love is the variety and the sense of purpose that really comes with the role. I actually started my career in sales and HR. I've worked in engineering companies, I've worked in construction sector, and I've worked in global tech organization. But what I've always had, and I guess what that constant for me has been, is that focus on people, culture, and really creating inclusive environments where others can really thrive. And that thread has really stayed with me, even as my roles have become broader. Bit about me, grew up in Kent, didn't see anyone. Oh no, I've seen one, Anika from Kent. Oh, and Amanda, there we go, they're popping up now. I grew up in Kent, and I was the first person in my family to go to university. I didn't have a clear career plan. I followed, I think, what my family thought was best, but I've always been curious, and I've always made a career by following my interests and working in sectors that really inspire me. And I've been privileged, and I've surrounded myself with people that I can learn from. So as soon as I stop learning, I know it's time for the next adventure. So I didn't grow up seeing people who looked like me in senior roles, so I know how powerful programs like this can be. They open doors, build confidence, and show you what's possible. So I'm really, really pleased to be here today, and absolutely happy to take any questions later on. I'll hand over, I think, to Phoebe, my colleague.
Thanks, Jazz. That's a tough act to follow. I'm Phoebe Painter. I'm the Early Careers Advisor here at the British Library, which basically means I manage all of our early careers opportunities. So we do apprenticeships, work experience, obviously this summer traineeship as well. So it's just me and Lindsay, my manager, who sort of work on those opportunities at the library. I've been at the library for 6 years and I actually joined originally as an apprentice. So I started as a business admin level 3 apprentice working across change programs. And then the library is amazing in that it gives you lots of opportunities. Everyone at the library is very supportive and wants you to do well. And I really took advantage of that and basically took any opportunity that I could at the library. So in the 6 years that I've been here, think I've had 6 different roles. So after my apprenticeship, moved into portfolio support officer role where I really learned about project management, got my qualification, did a lot of hard work during that role, which then led me on to being a EPMO analyst, which is enterprise portfolio management officer. So that basically looked at all of our projects that we run at the library and analysing the data from those. So it was really learning the processes behind project management and more of the theoretical side of it. I really wanted to be in the delivery side of projects though, and it was only through doing that role that I learned that. So then I moved into HR and worked on HR people projects. I did do a degree before I came to the library as well. So I'm from North London originally, went to do my degree in Manchester. I studied sociology there and absolutely loved it. But I feel like I left my degree feeling just as confused as I was when I went into it. So I did a few odd jobs after my degree. I did bar work. I worked in a hospital for a while as a healthcare assistant. Lots of different roles before I came to the library, but all of them were very much focused on people. I knew that I really enjoyed being around people and supporting and helping where I could. So when the opportunity came up to do an apprenticeship at the British Library, it was focusing on being inclusive for our audience and making sure that we are open for anyone who wants to use the library. So that was why I then moved into the British Library and I've been here ever since. And obviously full circle moment being in the early careers team from starting as an apprentice. So yeah, just goes to show how supportive the British Library is in making sure that you can develop your career and grow in your skill set. And I think that's everything about me, so I'll hand over to Lauren.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I was a participant on the programme in its first year. A little bit about me and kind of what I've been up to. So I'm from Plymouth originally, and after leaving school, I went to uni in Bristol and I studied English and philosophy, which I loved, but I graduated in 2023 and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I tried out like lots of voluntary work and some kind of short-term work in different career paths that I then realized weren't for me. And a bit more urgently, I was really struggling to find a job around that time. And generally just feeling a bit lost when I graduated uni. And that's when I found out about the roles at the British Library. I had done some voluntary work in like my local libraries during secondary school, and obviously I studied English, so I knew that I loved books and I cared about cultural heritage. And otherwise, my experience was kind of student ambassador work at university, which involved working kind of in widening participation and with underrepresented groups. But really, like the majority of my job experience was tutoring secondary school students, which I did throughout university. But when I did some research, I found that that kind of accessibility focus was really big at the British Library, and obviously it's a creative access scheme. So I thought, given the transferable experience I had, I would give it a go and apply, and I was successful, luckily. So I went ahead and did the placement, and then following completing the placement, I worked at some university libraries as a library assistant for about a year. And now I've gone back to university to do my master's degree in English. So yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing further insight into your respective pathways to date. Really fascinating, and we'll be hearing from all of the panelists more in the throughout the webinar, and also specifically at the Q&A section towards the end. So please do take a note if you've got any questions as they come up, and we will be saving some time for your questions towards the end. I have lots submitted in advance already, so we'll start with those, but just to remind you, there will be time for questions at the end, so please do drop any of those in the Q&A function on Zoom. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that this is the third year of our partnership with the British Library on this scheme, and we're super proud again to partner with them because it is an amazing opportunity to connect and learn from you know, an incredible employer and a whole range of professionals working in the heritage, cultural and library sector. We've got a lovely quote from one of our former past trainees on the programme here. So Alice, who says, "My favourite aspect of the traineeship was being able to pick the brains of all the incredible, intelligent and friendly staff." So I think that just gives you a flavour that this opportunity will allow you to meet a lot of people in the process and provide lots of different learning opportunities. And getting into the specifics of this placement, the British Library training placement, these summer training placements are designed to provide a taster of the sector, to uncover hidden roles and help you explore possible career options. You'll be managed by the early careers team, which Phoebe sits within, and they will create a programme of activity for you. And you'll also have the opportunity to manage your own time, to attend talks along with work tasks and group projects. And successful trainees will gain an insight into the whole breadth of career pathways at the British Library and beyond. Also worth mentioning and highlighting that there are 5 opportunities available, so 5 places to do a British Library training placement this summer. There's a QR code that links directly through to the advert on this slide. We've also put a link in the chat, the webinar chat, if you want to click through and peruse the details there, and we'll be kind of highlighting key information in the next few slides. So in terms of what you can expect from the programme, I'm now going to hand over to Phoebe to outline those details.
Thanks, Laura. So our summer training placement, I'd say, is probably one of our most exciting opportunities that we run. It is for me anyway. I find it really fun to organise and to take part in and to support our trainees through the placement. I think it was sort of already touched on a bit, but a big part of the placement will be working across different teams within the organisation. So you'll get to speak to a wide variety of people across the British Library, hear about their career stories and how they got into where they are at the moment, but also get to learn different skills. So if you're really interested in archiving, or you're really interested in marketing or a specific element of the business, then you will probably get the opportunity to speak to those teams and get that information and knowledge from them. So that's a really cool way also to learn about the different career options there are for you. So it's breaking down those barriers that the library is more than just books. There's so many things that go on at the British Library, and this training placement will run through those sorts of options there for you. You'll be line managed by the early careers team, so that's me and Lindsay Douglas, who I work with. So we will create a sort of timetable for the trainees to run through over their time with us. However, it is up to the trainees to manage their own time. So whilst we might organise some talks or a workshop or a meeting, it's up to you on the training placement to think about where you're going to spend time working on specific things. So you'll be with us from Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. But within that, there's flexibility. So you can say, oh, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours on this specific project that I'm working on. So it's a really nice way to sort of get that experience of managing your own time. It's a great thing to sort of build your skills up on and add on to CVs. The programme takes place on site at the British Library, so we would be expecting our trainees to come into the office every day. However, we understand that that's not always possible, so we did want to add in some flexibility there. If someone maybe needs to work from home for 1 or 2 days, then we would talk about that on an individual basis and make sure that we can make the schedule fit around you as well. But it works best as being on site so that you can be part of the organisation, you can really meet the people that you'll be working with. I know that in previous years the trainees have made strong friendship groups as well, so it's really nice to all come in together and have that sort of camaraderie by being there together as well. And there is a bursary for the opportunity. So the bursary is to help with any sort of financial barriers that hopefully won't be stopping you from going for the placement. So it will be paid fortnightly, and that's just to sort of assist. It's not too much, but it's hopefully enough to assist with any travel that you might need to pay for. And also as a way to just say, like, we do appreciate the trainees coming onto this placement. So we really want to make sure that we're not having any sort of access barriers to joining the programme. I think we can move on to the next slide. Thanks, Laura. So some of the key activities that you'll be getting involved in, again, like I said, you'll be learning from experienced library staff. So the staff at the British Library are there's just such a variety of people that work at the British Library, and you will meet some really interesting people who've got different experiences and backgrounds from all walks of life, and people who've got very specific interests and skills. So absolutely, if you are coming onto the traineeship, my advice would be to ask questions to everyone you meet. People are always keen to talk about how they got into their role, and everyone's story is different, and it's really nice just to hear from different people and the kinds of experiences that they've had in their career and how they've got to where they are. You'll learn about the creative sector and how the library fits into it through industry visits. So this is a really exciting part of it. So we'll do some trips to different places, so potentially different museums, different libraries. Yeah, I think last year we had 2 or 3 industry visits, so there'll be the opportunity to get out of the British Library as well and experience different organisations and how it works there across the sector. You'll learn different pathways, like I just said before, so I won't talk too much about that one. And then obviously developing skills in librarianship. So you'll work across multiple different teams, so you'll build skills across different sort of areas. So if you're specifically interested in librarianship, you'll get to meet with those sorts of teams. So maybe it's cataloguing, maybe it's curating, the different sort of colleagues across the organisation that might be have the sort of information that you want to learn about for librarianship. We also like to do a lot about engaging with audiences. So it might be that you work with a marketing team. Last year, the trainees worked on developing some TikTok videos. So it's really sort of interactive, fun projects that you'll be working on. But a lot of it is about engaging with audiences and developing your communication skills as well. And then supporting projects is a big part of it. So you'll be working in teams as well as individually on projects that we will set out throughout the programme. And then at the end of the programme, you'll then present on that work. So you'll also be developing your presentation skills. And it's really, really good to get that experience of working in the team with your other trainees, and then presenting on that as well together. So you can really sort of show how you're learning as a team as well as individually. And then we'll also run through some CV writing skills and interview workshops with you, so that hopefully you leave the programme feeling really well equipped to apply for other opportunities afterwards. And me and Lindsay continue that support going forward. So even if it's 2 months or 6 months after the opportunity, we're sort of open to having further contact if there's something that you're sort of applying to afterwards and want our advice on how to sort of use the experience that you've had during the traineeship to apply for those opportunities as well. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps afterwards? The training placement, we've designed it to really equip you to be confident, and confident is the word I'm going to go for, to apply for other opportunities afterwards. We do run apprenticeships at the library, and it would be the perfect sort of setup for you to go into an apprenticeship afterwards. The only thing I will say about our apprenticeship opportunities is that they come up on an ad hoc basis, so it is kind of luck if there's the opportunity there following the traineeship, sorry. But obviously if there's something that pops up at a later date, then absolutely you could use the experience that you got from the traineeship to apply for that. But it can also be used for any other opportunity that you might be interested in. So we've had previous trainees go into their studies again, so they can use the traineeship experience to sort of give their applications a bit more well-rounded information, so they know they've got that experience to apply for those studies. And a lot of our previous trainees have also got into careers in the cultural and heritage sector, so it's a really, really positive experience. We hope that it sets the trainees up for success. And yeah, I think that's everything from me. So I'm going to hand over to Lauren, who was obviously a previous trainee with us, to talk a little bit about her experience.
Yeah, thanks, Phoebe. So at the start of the program, we were given like a really comprehensive kind of introduction to the British Library, what it does, the building, the people you're going to be on the traineeship with, just because it can be like a little bit intimidating at first. And you also get an opportunity to really meet and get to know kind of the early careers team who line manage you, but more just sort of support you throughout the process, in my experience. And they were really lovely, and I'm still in touch with Lindsay now. So yeah, myself and the other trainees, we were given like a weekly program kind of, which varied between us. So you're not always working with your trainees. Some projects you sort of do by yourself. And we were also given opportunities at the start of the placement and throughout to feedback and let the team know if there was anything we were especially interested in or any preferences we had, so that they could tailor the experience a little bit to us. So for example, a lot of the trainees in my cohort were really interested in curation. So we were given lots of opportunities to shadow curators across different departments and assist them with cataloguing at times. One example I can think of was an afternoon we got to spend in the sound archive with the sound engineers and curators there, and they showed us the library's really cool collection of like physical media and their recording studios and digitizing equipment and stuff like that. And one of my highlights personally was I got to work in the contemporary British collection with the archivist there, and helped them with cataloguing some of the archives of some 1960s poets they were working on. Throughout the program, we had lots of opportunities to sit down with different staff from different departments and kind of have Q&A sessions with them, and they would talk about their role. And a big part of it was how they came to be in that career and any kind of advice or guidance they had for us if we were also interested in pursuing those roles. So we did loads of those, but they included marketing and events and even things like community outreach, as well as obviously like the curators and the librarians as well. Other really cool examples of things we did was working with the digitization team. So looking at how they digitize manuscripts and archives so they can be accessed online. And like Phoebe mentioned, we also had workshops on transferable employability skills. So for example, we had one on project management, and that really helped out with the kind of singular projects that we were tasked with working on ourselves throughout the program and that we presented at the end. So for my cohort, we were pitched a number of different projects at the start, and we got to choose what we were most interested in working on. So I ended up working on a sort of social media focused project, which was looking at promoting early careers. And I remember 2 of my other cohort members worked with the Endangered Archives program, which is like a funding program for archives around the world that are at risk of disappearing. And they helped them to kind of assess their application process. My cohort even actually got to travel to Oxford for the day, and we had a tour of the Bodleian and got to talk to the staff there. So I could really go on and on about all the different things we got to do. Really, like, no 2 days were the same at all, and I got to speak to so many different people. And I think the best thing for me about this traineeship was that it was really, really tailored to our interests and kind of what we wanted to get out of it. So it's not necessarily all just about working with books or with objects like you might expect from a job in cultural heritage. And I think that's the main takeaway I kind of got from this placement. So yeah.
Incredible. Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, Phoebe, for kind of going into more of the detail. I mean, it really does sound like such a rich experience and a nice opportunity for both pursuing independent personal projects, but also lots of group work and collaboration where there, the opportunities to achieve things that you couldn't on your own. So super exciting. I'm going to kind of touch more on the recruitment side of things. So what Creative Access is looking for in terms of interest over experience. No related experience is required for this placement. I think that's a brilliant opportunity for so many people to apply. I've got a few slides on this before we then go into questions. So if you have any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A function on the bar on your Zoom toolbar. We also have the upvoting function. So if you'd like to, if you don't have a question yourself, but you'd like to upvote another, then please do upvote it and we'll get to those questions first. So coming back to what we're looking for, Creative Access is specifically looking for interest over experience. And then in terms of eligibility criteria, you must be aged 16 or above. To flag, there's no upper age limit for this opportunity. You have to be interested in the British Library, ideally interested in working in the heritage, cultural and library sector, and also have an understanding of how the library engages with a variety of users and audiences. You're keen to learn and reflect on your experience, so that capacity to learn and develop as it's a training opportunity, be well organised and also competent in using a computer. Ideally have knowledge of MS Office or happy to develop and learn these skills throughout the placement. And then in terms of how to make your application stand out, please do tailor your application to this specific opportunity. So put some thought into your CV and your cover letter and make it bespoke to the British Library training placement. Tell us about your enthusiasm and your passion for working with books within libraries and in the heritage and cultural sector. We'd really like to know why you're interested in working at the British Library. What is it that really sparks that kind of excitement in working at this specific employer? If you can, please do demonstrate your understanding of how the British Library engages with a variety of users. Have a look on their website and research how they're working with different audiences. And please do make sure to include any relevant experience on your CV, even if it's unpaid work, personal projects you're working on in your spare time, or voluntary responsibilities. Anything relevant will really help to make your application stand out. I think specifically we'd be really interested to hear, why is this training placement going to make a difference at this point in your journey, and how is it relevant to your future career? That's always really helpful to understand in an application. So to summarize our top tips, this is an entry-level opportunity. You won't be expected to have lots of experience. Please do demonstrate alignment with your personal goals. So specifically, how does this traineeship and how does the British Library, and then how, along with the heritage, culture and library sector, align with your career aspirations? So how does it all tie together with a long-term plan? Also, if you're able to showcase any relevant certifications or training, plus mention work or experience studies or personal projects that may have provided transferable skills. You know, be authentic and show off your personal interests if they're relevant, whether it's collecting coins or researching a particular topic. We'd love to hear about it. You know, often the most interesting applications is when somebody has a really unique interest and they've really applied you know, themselves to that. Also important, make sure that you can commit to this specific opportunity and the 4 weeks that it will run in August. So there are top tips. And now we're gonna, we've got a good 20-25 minutes to have a lovely discussion, a Q&A. So thanks those of you that submitted questions in advance. I'm going to start off with those, and then I suspect that more questions, it will prompt more questions in the Q&A function. So I might kind of flip back between those and the questions submitted in advance. And what I will do is stop sharing my screen for now, so we can see all the lovely speakers, and then I'm gonna kind of put different questions to the panel. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive on the application process. So we've shared our top tips and how to make your application stand out, but I think a couple of questions came up submitted in advance around what is the best way to show off my passion and commitment to libraries and the British Library as someone with no prior experience. So really thinking about the kind of early entrant as someone who hasn't yet got that experience, but they want to demonstrate their passions and commitments to library through other ways. Phoebe, would you be happy to take that question in the first instance?
Of course. Yeah, I think it's sort of touched on before, but if you can really pull on your personal interests, if you've got a sort of personal project that you've been working on, and it can really be anything. So if you're really interested in a specific topic, or you love a specific author, and you're really sort of, I don't know, if you're collecting certain books or you're collecting anything, anything at all that's really sort of relevant to librarianship, you can touch on that and put that in your application. It will absolutely be considered. I think experience doesn't have to be through work. You've got experience just from life, just from what you're interested in. If you do any sort of clubs or activities or voluntary work as well, then that would be perfect to put in there as well. But yeah, definitely just the passion and interest is what we'd be looking for over your experience. So hopefully that calms some nerves a bit. If you're thinking, oh, I've not got enough experience for this opportunity, that's absolutely not a problem. It's just about trying to adapt the knowledge and interest that you already have into why that's relevant to the British Library.
Thanks, Phoebe. And I'm going to switch to Jazz if that's okay, because I think, Jazz, you've come from different sectors before your time at the British Library. And so I'm kind of interested to know what kind of work experiences are more relevant than others, especially if you've never worked in a library. So transferability of skills, I guess, if someone's perhaps got retail experience or hospitality, is that all valid?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd be surprised how transferable many skills are really across sectors. I guess, you know, libraries are about people as much as they are about collections. So, you know, experience helping, guiding, supporting others is really relevant. So, you know, that could come from customer service or public facing roles, any work with data, content management, catalogues, research tools. You know, the way you handle information is really quite important as well. And then a few things that people have said around if you've worked or volunteered, whether that's in museums, whether that's in schools, whether that's in arts organisations, charities, you know, it's all around education, community and cultural settings. And then, you know, if you look at Phoebe's career, you know, lots of roles involve coordination and behind the scenes support. So, you know, project work, logistics, even the admin side. So, and then you kind of think about skills as a whole, you know, teamwork, adaptability, curiosity, you know, those really show you how quickly, how you can learn quickly and how you love solving problems. So I think, you know, really do, you know, to the question that was just before this, you know, why do libraries matter to you personally? And that doesn't matter whether it's around knowledge, public service culture or community. You know, you can draw on all sorts of experiences actually to build that relevance.
Thank you, Jazz. And how about you, Lauren? Was there anything that you stated in the application process that you felt that was picked up in the interview process and so on?
Yeah, so I know I mentioned I had some like voluntary experience in libraries, but I actually think this was less beneficial to me in terms of the experience than it was being able to exhibit an understanding of what libraries do and why it's important. And kind of like Phoebe and Jazz have said, you don't have to get that from cultural heritage experience. You could get that from anything really. Like it could be customer service experience and understanding you know, what libraries want to deliver in terms of customer service and saying that you have hands-on experience of that. Or I think my work with underrepresented groups was just as helpful as work in libraries. So yeah, above all, I'd emphasize maybe like doing your research and showing that you understand what the library does and why it's important. But that doesn't necessarily have to come directly from experiencing cultural heritage.
Thank you. We've actually got a question which says, if we have experience in a library, does it put you at a disadvantage? I'd say it probably puts you at an advantage if you're able to celebrate why it's relevant to this and your appetite to build on your existing experience and what you gain from your existing experience in a library and what you would gain in terms of also doing this training placement. Would you say that's fair, Phoebe?
100%. I like how you put that in terms of what you've gained from that experience, but also what you can gain from this one. So it's looking at what you've learned already and maybe what additional stuff you can learn from this traineeship as well. So it's looking at that skill set that you've got and how this will help you build on that. But absolutely, it wouldn't put you at a disadvantage.
Cool. And then just thinking what else to cover. We've touched on interviews, and Lauren, you've explained a little bit about kind of things that were picked up in interview. But Phoebe, could you elaborate on the interview process to start with in terms of Creative Access's processes? We will receive your CV and cover letters through our kind of application portal, and we will review all of those applications by hand. So please do proofread and double check everything is correct. A human eye will be reading all the applications, and then we will choose the most highest scoring applications and those who have the most potential to benefit from this opportunity, and invite you to a group long listing video call. If you get to that stage, we'll provide further guidance as to what is needed for that specific session. And if you're progressed from that stage onwards, you will have an interview with you may be invited to interview with the British Library team. So Phoebe, could you tell us a little bit about once someone's been progressed from Creative Access, they've been longlisted, they've been invited to interview from the British Library, what happens next?
Sure. So if you get an invitation for interview, it will likely be over Teams, and it will just be a 30-minute to 45-minute discussion, not too formal, but also not too relaxed. We want you to bring your best self and show us why you really want this opportunity. But it will be more of a discussion than a sort of quiz or test or anything. We just want to know who you are and what you're interested in, why you want this opportunity. There's usually a panel of 2 to 3 people. So it'll probably be myself and Lindsay that will be on the panel. So it will just be a nice conversation to get to know you and see if we think it would be a good fit for you as well to do this opportunity. We also send the questions out in advance, so you'll have an opportunity to look through those questions and prepare. And with it being over a virtual call, you can have your notes out, you can really sort of get to be comfy in your space, ready for that interview. So hopefully it's not too much of a stressful experience. We want it to be nice and positive. But yeah, it will just be for us to make sure that it's a right fit for you, and also for you to make sure it's a right fit for you. We want you to ask the questions that you might have and make sure that you're definitely happy with the opportunity as well.
Brilliant. just on the application itself, we also have a question around kind of things to avoid. So no-nos for the application process, and I'll extend that to the interview. I think maybe if we could each, or those that are currently working at the British Library, say, oh, Lauren, if you have anything to add to things to avoid in the application or interview process. So please don't lie. Be authentic, be genuine, and tell the truth. I'd say that would be very important. Over to you, Phoebe.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think definitely, yeah, just be authentic and be yourself. I don't know what's a no for that. I suppose obviously it has to be relevant. So if you're sort of putting information in there that's not to do with the opportunity or libraries or anything like that, then we don't really want to see that. I suppose if it can be as sort of succinct as possible and you're really getting your point across in a sort of efficient way, then that's helpful. But yeah, that's a really tough question. I don't know, Jazz and Lauren might have a better idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, look, you know, people in applications now are using all sorts of AI and tools, and I think they're great enablers and support in various ways. But you've got to be yourself, and you've got to be authentic in whatever you're presenting. So I guess that, you know, just be cautious of that and what tools you're using. I guess that whole piece around storytelling, you know, I guess avoid talking about things that you lack. And I know that seems obvious, but, you know, although I don't have experience in this, you know, you don't need to say that. Actually flip it, focus on what you do bring, and, you know, and practice that as well. So yeah, I mean, those are things. Make it personal. You know, don't kind of copy and paste from other bits that you've sent to other places, because actually each role treats it as it being unique, and not kind of, you know, 100 CVs and 100 applications, you'll get a job. I wouldn't encourage that. And really do think about your skill sets, like we talked about earlier, even if they're from another sector. You know, make it easy for us to connect those dots, but also that you've thought about it, and do your homework. You know, find out who we are and what we're up to, and that always impresses us as well.
Thank you. And from your perspective, Lauren, what's things to avoid, whether it's you know, staying on top of correspondence, invites to interview, turning up on time, bringing your best self, that sort of thing? Anything, top tips?
Yeah, I would say maybe not so much an avoidance, but just generally, I think a good cover letter advice I've been given is maybe trying to avoid being too like generic. So someone a couple of years ago told me their best piece of cover letter advice was to include something really memorable. If you have it, obviously, don't just make it up if you don't. But I think like coin collecting was mentioned a couple of slides ago, something like that isn't necessarily obvious that you might think of as being relevant to the role, but in some ways is, and is also going to allow someone who's looking through, you know, 50 plus cover letters to think, oh yeah, I remember the person who collected coins. So I think if you have it, that's always good advice. And just to echo the do your homework message, I think a great part about this interview process and having access to the questions beforehand is, if like me, you're not someone who necessarily thrives on the spot, but you do thrive with research and being able to prepare your answers. It's a really great opportunity to show that you've done your work and done your homework and that you really care about the opportunity. So yeah, I would echo that.
Thank you all. I'm going to move on more to the kind of practicalities of the placement, and a question that has been asked is there an upper age limit? That has come up in the presentation, so I'll kind of tick that one off in saying there's no upper age limit to this opportunity. We also have a question around starting dates and finish. I think that's come up. So yeah, what are the dates for this placement, Phoebe?
So the placement will start on the 4th of August and it will run for 4 weeks. So the last day, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it will be 4 weeks after the 4th of August. And we will sort of for those that are successful, we'll hope to sort of let you know a couple of weeks before the start date. So it's quite a quick turnaround from application to interview and then to start date. But yeah, you'll be with us for the whole of August, which is nice.
And you, a question's come up around availability. Say if someone's not available for the start of August, you are really, my understanding is you are really looking for people that can commit to those 4 weeks, the 4th of August through to the 29th of August.
Yes, we are. Yeah, unfortunately, we'd love to take on everyone if we could. But yeah, if you are available for those 4 weeks, then that would be ideal. Yeah.
Okay, and then in terms of doing this placement remotely, that was offered in terms of accessibility. And Phoebe, could you touch on what that would look like?
Sure. So we work flexibly at the British Library in general. It depends on the role. So a lot of people across the organisation do work flexibly. Obviously, I'm working from home today. So we are set up as an organisation to allow for that. And it is a very flexible place to work. All of the trainees will be given their own laptop. So you'll be able to sort of use that laptop throughout the placement. And if there are needs that arise, that means you do need to work from home, then we will be able to sort of set you up with that, and you can take the laptop home with you, join calls remotely. We would just make sure that we're putting that extra support in place for you. So it might mean that we have more check-ins in the morning, maybe with myself or Lindsay, just to make sure that you're set up for that day, and you know what's needed of you for that day if you are working from home. Ideally, though, it is set up as an in-person experience. As I said before, it's working with lots of people across the organisation. You'll be walking around the building and sort of seeing different areas of the British Library. So having that in-person experience is really valuable, and we really are pushing for that. But obviously, we understand that people have accessibility needs, or they might just need a day at home, and we're open and flexible to support that as well. But yeah, that's sort of how it would work. So we'd set you up with your laptop so you can work from home. But it would be lots of communication in advance to make sure that that's all set up well, and that you've got the workspace as well to be doing that from home and you're comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you. And the questions come up kind of specifically around kind of during the placement, like just a little bit more insight into what does an average day look like? What kind of outputs would you expect the trainee to produce during that 4 weeks? So yeah, if you could speak to those kind of questions.
Sure. So each day will look very different to each other. Usually we'll have the trainees come on site at 10 a.m. We'll all sort of meet together in the morning, and you'll have a timetable that is sort of set out for you. Within that timetable, there's lots of different activities that we will have organised. So it might be meeting with a specific team to talk about what they do, giving you an opportunity to ask them questions. It might be that you've organised a meeting with a colleague to talk about a project that you're working on. It might be that you're meeting with the other trainees to do some teamwork. You've sort of set out your timetable around the things that we've put in there already. So it could be you come on site, you meet the other trainees, and then you sort of get going with whatever is on that day. So you might be meeting different teams. We do lots of staff talks. So we will organise some colleagues to come in and talk about what they do. We also do workshops together. We do fun things. You might be having a trip one day. So every day will be different to the last. So it's a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but it will be busy. There'll be lots to be getting on with. It has been said that it's a bit intense, but in a really positive way. You get lots of different experience of doing lots of things. A lot of teamwork, but also a lot of independent work, and making sure that you're managing your own time within that as well.
Super, thank you. And then in terms of questions come up in terms of kind of, are there any particular digital tools or cataloguing systems we'll be trained on during the placement? That also relates to a question in the chat around what's helpful to tell you about in the application. So two-pronged question: what computer skills are helpful to have in terms of the application, and what computer skills and or training opportunities are there during the placement? I don't know who would like to take that.
I can take that. That's okay. So yeah, in terms of what skills they would sort of need, technology skills, we use Microsoft Office, so a basic understanding of that would be good. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that would be beneficial if you've got a very basic understanding. You don't need to know absolutely everything about that. There potentially could be opportunities for you to learn about the different sort of systems that we use at the library. Last year, I know the team worked with one of the archiving teams, and I don't know what the system was called, so don't quiz me on it, but they did a sort of run through of that, and I think they had maybe 4 hours to sort of learn about how that was used. There's obviously licensing issues with our technology, so the trainees couldn't actually get on and use it themselves during their placement, but there's the opportunity to learn about it and see how it's used in practice across the organisation. And that is something that I'd say, if you're really interested in a specific, I don't know, software or something that's used in the library, then let us know and we can see if we can organise something for you to learn more about that.
Thanks, Phoebe. I guess the important distinction is, if someone hasn't used a computer yet in a professional setting, this is the perfect opportunity to transfer those skills and then learn how to use it in a professional context. So, and that would hopefully be very useful for future career opportunities as well. Cool. Okay. And then next steps, that comes nicely onto the topic. Interested to know, what have past trainees gone on to do? What are the employment opportunities above and beyond this training program? Will this kind of traineeship opportunity bolster future job opportunities? I don't know who wants to take that.
I'm happy to take that one. So I think obviously the British Library is kind of a big name in cultural heritage anyway, and I found it's useful just to be able to say that you have some experience there. But even if you decided afterwards you didn't want to go down the path of cultural heritage, I found this traineeship was great for being able to learn and evidence so many widely desirable skills. So you're doing things like research, you're working with archives or databases. I even got opportunities to interview people from my project, for example. And in particular, I found being able to say that I had experience of project management so early in my career has been really beneficial for lots of job applications, not just in cultural heritage. I think that's a fairly rare skill, to be able to say that you've managed a project solo quite early on, and that would be really helpful across a whole range of careers. In my case, I also got to say that I'd done some social media work and social media management, and obviously that's so desirable nowadays in kind of all sorts of sectors. So yeah, I think you get so many opportunities to try out lots of different things, and you come away with really substantial evidence of it, not just less necessarily kind of vaguely transferable stuff. You can say, I've managed this project by myself, that here's the evidence, here's the sort of data for it. And no matter what you decide to do in the future, that would be helpful, even if it wasn't cultural heritage. Yeah.
I was going to add, a traineeship is such a brilliant starting point, I think, for anybody going into any sector or considering what they want to do. I mean, it gives you, like Lauren's experienced herself, real hands-on experience and insight into so many different parts of an organisation, and for us, obviously, for the library. But it's also a really good chance for you to build a network and a professional network, right? So it might be one of your first chances where you're working with peers, colleagues, people that have worked in the industry for a long time, but that network will be so valuable to you, and hopefully it stays. And people will go on to get whether they go on to apprenticeships here or elsewhere or different pathways. You know, all of that experience helps build your confidence as well in when you go to apply for things. So it can open doors to further study, it can open doors to other types of traineeships, other sorts of roles. You know, don't always think of it as a what's the next step up, because actually for many of us we have what you'd call squiggly careers, and you know, for those that are curious and want to learn more, or do things just a bit differently, then you have such a great opportunity. So skills that you gain, whether it's social media or using different tech, you know, they're so transferable, but a traineeship can give you that solid foundation, I'd say, to build on. So I'd definitely recommend a traineeship or some sort of work experience in this sort of structure is hugely helpful.
Thank you. Phoebe, anything to add on that point?
No, I think to be honest, it's sort of covered. I think we've had trainees that have gone on to lots of different opportunities afterwards. So it's definitely going to, you know, benefit you moving into different opportunities. It doesn't really matter what that looks like for you, and it will look different to every single person that comes onto the traineeship. So yeah, whether that's going to university after, if that's going for an alternative early careers opportunity like an apprenticeship, or if that's a permanent role somewhere, it will give you the experience to be able to do the application for those opportunities, but also to be able to commit to those and yeah, really build on your skills moving forward. But yeah, I like Jazz's term of squiggly careers because it's very true. It's never a linear journey. You've always got sort of different things coming in. And I think if this is an opportunity that interests you or piques your interest, then I'd say apply for it, but I know I'm biased, but apply for it and see where it goes. And then it will absolutely benefit you moving forward.
We do have a quite specific question related to this around if we wanted to apply to apprenticeship at the British Library following this experience, would that be limited if they have a degree? I guess it depends, but usually apprenticeships don't require a degree. So I guess it's just how best to navigate different pathways.
Sure. So I don't think it would be a disbenefit by having a degree. I did my apprenticeship after getting my degree. So it's absolutely a pathway you can take by doing a degree and then doing an apprenticeship. The apprenticeships come in different levels as well. So you can do a level 3 apprenticeship, which is the same as an A level, or a level 2 apprenticeship, which is the same as an AS or just below A level. So they're the two that we currently offer as externally recruited apprenticeships. So absolutely, you can do that journey. That's the journey I took of doing a degree and then getting into an apprenticeship. It's not something that we would negatively assess in an apprenticeship application. But also outside of the library, there'll be lots of other apprenticeship opportunities. So if you're wanting to do a higher level apprenticeship, there'll be those opportunities as well. So it goes up to a level 7, although they are stopping soon, but level 7 is degree level, level 6 is also degree level. So you can look out for a few of those if you're looking to keep at that level of qualification. But I highly recommend doing an apprenticeship, even if you've got a degree. I think they are really valuable and you learn so much. It's a very different thing that you learn. You can really sort of apply the experience and knowledge into the work that you're doing rather than the theoretical side of it that you might get more likely from a degree. So it's just whatever is more interesting for you, then you can take that path. But yeah, I wouldn't say don't apply to an apprenticeship just because you've got a degree. It's absolutely it's a great way to get your foot in the door as well, to get into the cultural and heritage sector, because it is notoriously hard to break into. So any of those sort of opportunities, I'd say go for.
Amazing, thank you. I think that's really helpful to understand there's different possible avenues into kind of pursuing a career in the sector. We have had so many great questions from the audience today. I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of them. Our Megan, who's helping us out with tech, has kind of posted a link to our advert with further information about this opportunity. You can also follow up with the team via recruit@creativeaccess.org.uk if you have a specific inquiry that we've not been able to speak to. I also wanted to flag our group CV session that's happening this Thursday. So if you would like to learn how to best present your CV and covering letter, understand what best to include in your application in more detail, and how to update your CV and covering letter with any recent experience, and we'll be covering that in an independent session on Thursday. So that's all in good time to bolster your application to this specific opportunity. I just wanted to kind of close today with a question to all of our panel, is just kind of your general top tip for pursuing a career in libraries and the kind of more broadly creative sectors.
Shall I go first? So I'd say, look, stay curious and stay open. Libraries they're not just about books, they're about people, they're about ideas, access, impact, and whether you're into tech, education, heritage, public service, there's a place for you here. Libraries can change lives, and that includes yours. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Jazz. Over to Phoebe.
That was very inspiring, Jazz. I don't know if I can keep up with that. But absolutely take any opportunities that come your way, whether it is work experience or more personal interests, clubs, activities, anything that's sort of interesting to you and relevant to the cultural and heritage sector. Take them if you can. And yeah, stay interested and ask questions, speak to people. You can email anyone at any time and just be like, hey, I'm really interested in working here. Do you have any thoughts or advice? And people will be happy to talk to you. So yeah, I think that's my brief advice.
And Lauren, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say getting your foot in the door is often quite helpful. It can be much easier to kind of work your way up, even if it's not from your ideal role. But once you're into a cultural heritage company or institution, another thing I would mention is I found just volunteering, so like local volunteering in libraries, to be really helpful. They need a lot of help anyway, and I think it gives you a lot of insight into why cultural heritage is important, kind of on more of like a grassroots and community level as well.
Amazing. Thank you, all of our amazing speakers today, Jazz, Phoebe and Lauren. You've been so generous with your insights and advice, top tips and guidance. It's hugely appreciated. Thank you to our audience. I think we had over 200 people join us today, which is incredible. Best of luck to your applications. I hope today has been helpful. Please do let us know your feedback. I'm going to put a QR code on the screen. So yeah, please do let us know your feedback. It would be lovely to hear your thoughts on today, how we can improve our webinars and other ways of working. A reminder of the closing date for this specific opportunity. You've got some time left to apply, so we'll be closing the opportunity on Monday, the 23rd of June. In touch with the next steps as and when. But yeah, best of luck, everyone. I hope you put in a strong application, and today's been super helpful. Thanks again to the panel, to our audience, and to the team behind the scenes helping to make today happen. I hope everyone has a lovely evening. Cheerio. Bye, everyone.